Hello, investors. Welcome to yet another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. Friends, in Australia, one of the most tried and true methods of creating wealth is to make big discoveries. But in order to make the big discoveries, you have to have projects and you have to have the right land. And that's why we're so excited today to be joined by Doug Grewar, CEO of EMU Resources. And EMU has some of the most exciting prospective land around in gold, copper, nickel, all of which could be company makers. And here to talk all about it, Doug, welcome to 18 Minutes with 180 Markets.
Thanks very much, Greg. We'll look forward to the opportunity to talking with you.
Absolutely. Hey, Doug, everyone's got a story. I always like to say, can you just tell us in a couple minutes about your background?
My personal background, Greg, well, I'm originally from a farming background in Western Australia, and it was a tough gig, a very, very tough gig. And farmers in Western Australia usually head to the mining industry somewhere to generate cash and keep the farms going. And I started off as a young man interested to become a farmer, but very quickly got into the mining about 40 years ago. And I've never looked back. I've loved what I've done. I've been involved in the mining in all aspects. Today, obviously, in exploration, which I love, but I've been involved in creating mines and working in operations as well throughout my career.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, as you said, you've worked the whole spectrum. In your mind, what makes exploration so interesting?
Exploration is really interesting because I think you've got to have an innate interest in geology itself. You've got to be curious, and that I am very curious, and I've always loved the geological aspect. It's about taking something from creation, from cradle to grave, and watching that story. It's about achievement, and it starts right at the very front with exploration and the hard work that needs to go into finding a discovery. It's a lottery in a lot of ways. It's about the endowment you have in the land that you have, and the hard work you do to get there before you can create the asset, which ultimately becomes a mine and creates wealth for everyone involved.
Yes. And speaking of assets, maybe just touch base, on EMU, on the portfolio of assets, wherever you want to stand. As I said in the introduction, you have gold, copper, nickel, wherever you would like to begin.
Yeah, sure, Greg. Well, look, it probably starts when I started with EMU, we were in the Andes, the high Andes in Chile, looking for gold. And we had worked very hard over 4 years and had limited amount of success. A bit of excitement here and there with some of our strike intercepts, but look, ultimately with the COVID and the situation deteriorating in the politics in Chile, we decided to focus in Western Australia where our head office is. And we picked up some projects in early 2020. And we've got 5 projects now in Western Australia, all within driving distance of the office, which is fantastic. It hasn't stopped, none of the pandemic has stopped anything we've done. We're hard workers, we work hard, we do a lot of work in exploration. We spend our time with boots on the ground, and we have 5 projects. We had a project out at Menzies in the goldfields, and we picked up 3 projects in the wheat belt in southwest Western Australia in the Yilgarn Craton. And we also have a really nice gold project up at Yalgoo, about 450 k's north of Perth, not far from Golden Grove and Golden Dragon. So we're on the same structure in the greenstones up there with some high grade gold.
Yeah, and with these gold projects, what made them, from your point of view, stand out as potentially really exciting projects?
The project at Yalgoo, and that's the pure gold play, and the one we've spent most of our time on, was quite well advanced. It was an existing historic mine that had produced around about 28,000 ounces in the early days, and had stopped because of water problems and labour problems in the 40s. So we thought that there was a good opportunity on a high-grade extensions that were existing in that old underground mine. Work had been done in progressing mining licenses for that. So it is an ML that we're sitting on there. And we looked at the tenements that surrounded that on the same structure, and were they easy enough to acquire, of which we have completed that work and acquired those, and they've proved to be very, very fruitful and have high prospectivity, just as the old Now's Nest historic mine has itself.
Yeah, and as you said, that there was really, the production was in the 1940s, which is a long time ago. Do you feel that using modern techniques really exponentially enhances the prospects over there?
Well, look, I think we looked at things like the geochem, the geophysics that we're using these days. They've been very helpful to give us some vectors on extensions. Ultimately, this is high-grade gold locked up in quartz veining and hosted in shear metasediments. Look, it does, Greg, but ultimately it's all hard work, and most of our work has been drilling. With Badger project, we've drilled 18,000 meters of RC drilling in 12 months, and we've extended the high grade along strike and at depth along the old Now's Nest historic mine, but also we've discovered a couple of new deposit areas to the north, which are very, very exciting as well.
And has these northern discoveries, have they come from the drilling that you've done in the last 18 months?
Yeah, correct, Greg. We acquired a number of prospecting licenses, which are on target, and from that we're able to specifically two prospects, one called Monte Cristo and the other Water Tank Hill, on our recent drilling have provided us with real excitement on high-grade intercepts that we've got from there.
And what would you expect next, or what should investors expect next out of Water Tank and Monte Cristo?
Yeah, well, with those two, we've done a comprehensive geochem program and intensified infill around those specific prospect areas. The geochem gives us very, very good vectors into looking at where the high-grade contacts are, and also gives us some indication also of some of the dilation and widths that are involved. And these are very prospective areas because they also are situated in a flexure in the greenstone. So you can see it in the magnetics, and so the geophysical work that we've done indicates that we've got some really nice targets here at both Water Tank Hill and Monte Cristo.
And will you be drilling them out over the next 12 months?
Yes. What the plan is that we're waiting on these soil results, Greg, and once they come in, those vectors will lead us to a drilling program before June. We've tentatively booked a drill rig, and we'll look to get the program planned following the results that come through in the geochem, which we're expecting in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Great. And obviously getting the drill rigs is no mean feat in this market right now, is it?
No, it's not easy, but one of the great advantages that we've had is that one of the vendors of some of the project here was a drilling company, and so we're able to pull their shirt sleeves every now and then. So it's been very helpful.
Yes, you need a little bit of good fortune, I suppose.
Yes.
Now, Doug, turning over towards copper and nickel, because EMU, people may not know that you have that type of exposure as well. Can you just talk a little bit about those metals?
Sure. So we've got 4 other projects other than the Badger Gold project, and we really loosely define those as nickel copper PGE projects. The one that we haven't started any boots on ground work yet is Sunfire, and Sunfire is situated immediately adjacent, abutting the Chalice Mining Venture Minerals Thor or Southwest Nickel prospect. It sits on what Chalice have determined, or theoretically determined, the western margin of the Yilgarn Craton, which is a very highly prospective and almost entirely unexplored belt in Western Australia. So Sunfire has already got historic drilling and has significant nickel and copper anomalies. So we're really excited about getting our boots on the ground in the next few months on that property. We're working currently doing some geophysical electromagnetic surveys on our Viper Copper project at Jerramunga and our Gracelands project near Hyden in Western Australia, both in the wheat belt under wheat crops. And we've done some auger drilling, which has given us some interesting anomalism, and we're following that up with the geophysics program, which should hopefully give us some conductors, bedrock conductors, that'll give us some vectors for some drilling for the first time. It'll be maiden drilling in those areas. So we're pretty excited about copper and nickel in those 2 projects at least.
Yeah, it's incredible to think that, as you said, for someone like with your background, getting in for the first time into an area that uncharted territory, it is extremely exciting. Can you threw out a lot of information there very quickly. Going back for Sunfire, So will the drilling there take place, call it between now and the end of the calendar year?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Greg. Look, I hope so. We're going through all of the things that need to be involved with these acquisitions in those areas. We've got Crown Forest, we've got farmlands, negotiations with that, a lot of landhold, a lot of administration work that needs to go with these acquisitions. So we're going through that process now, and we're hopeful that we will be able to, first of all, do an EM and soils program there. But if that was able to be done in the next 3 or 4 months, then I'm thinking that we will be able to be drilling before the end of the year on that project.
And okay, great. And then as far as Viper?
Viper the drilling will be determined whether we get a conductor at Viper. And if we do, I think we can go straight in there. We have drill targets already there. There's a historic copper mine already there, very high-grade copper mine. So there is some vectors on that already, but if we can get a conductor, a source potentially, then we will be straight in there with the rigs.
Right. And is the fact that there has been some historic success in that area, is that another reason why you're so excited about that location?
I'm excited about it because it's so underexplored. We discovered 2 indicated Proterozoic dikes that run in parallel that have shown anomalous copper and nickel. And on those dikes is the old copper project, the copper mine itself. We also had some anomalous gold, incidentally, which is not unusual for that area. There is a bit of gold around there, but yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's potentially, it's certainly we need to do work, but it's certainly got some potential.
Yeah. And Doug, I guess when as an investor, when I look at the company, I believe your market cap is sitting somewhere around $10 million right now. When you think of the portfolio, it just seems like there's so many different ways to win. And so many different potential company maker projects. Is that your view as well?
Yeah, look, and it always was. We're very strategic about how we acquired these projects, Greg. When we first came out of Chile, we did a lot of work. We looked at 70 projects around the world before coming onto these 5. We selected them as the top of the pile. And it was principally around the fact that, well, Badger was a late stage gold project that had potential to generate cash in an early sense. And the nickel and copper has always been, favourite metals of ours. We could see, the EV market, the batteries coming through, and yeah, we decided to go to areas which were close to our office and in highly prospective areas. And the wheat belt's underexplored. It's it's been sitting under farmland for all these years. Everyone's been out in the gold fields, but we've got new provinces and new places to explore.
Yeah. Hey, Doug, I have to ask the question, now that, you've had global projects, now that you're in your current focus is WA, how much easier is it dealing in country, so I suppose?
It's very much easier, far easier. And, if we had projects during this pandemic overseas, I think it's been tough for everybody who's had that. I mean, you need to get out there, you need to be with your teams. To get the most out of it. We've been so fortunate to have our backyard and within a driving distance, half a day's drive with all of our projects.
Yeah, and if nothing else, it saves you, I suppose, being on the right time zone, even with conversations. Is that correct?
That's right. I spent most of my life on the night shift when we were working in Chile. So you're right about that, Chris.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure that takes a couple of years out of your life. Doug, in closing, what should investors look for out of EMU over the next 12 months? Like, what would be your version of success?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting one, Greg, and we've talked about this ourselves. We picked these 5 projects up with the intention of doing work on all of them and, spending enough money to make a decision on whether we keep it or we let it go if it hasn't got the prospectivity. We've been constantly looking at project generation as every day we're in the space in project generation. We're currently working on some really nice projects at the moment, and some of those are offshore, but not in extreme time frames. But look, it's we constantly look at our project generation portfolio, and I think that we're always looking for that scale project that will keep the company going. But having said that, the prospects that we've got at the moment, the projects we've got at the moment, are still very exciting, and we need to not limit our time on any of those, looking for new ones when we've got work to do at home.
Of course. Hey, Doug, do you have any closing remarks for the audience?
What can I say? That the EMU is We all think that EMU's got a lot to offer in terms of its portfolio of projects. It has a number of arms and legs. It's not just a single project focus. Being involved with gold and copper and nickel, we couldn't be in any better commodities. Our issues to do with logistics on any of these projects are fantastic. You know, we can get out in the field in a couple of hours. We're a hard-working company. We don't sit still. We've got a number of very, very senior geos working for us. Yeah, look, I'm hopeful that we're going to bring home returns for our investors. That's our total focus. All of us have got skin in the game, so we feel every pinch along the way. So we're determined to return value to our shareholders in this journey.
Yes, I know you are, Doug, and it certainly is coming through loud and clear. Doug, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to sharing your progress with all of our investors, with everybody that we know. Definitely stay in touch, and we look forward to another interview with you.
And thanks very much, Greg, and appreciate the time.
Easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching another presentation by 180 Markets. Don't forget, if you want access to thousands of ASX capital raises, head on over to 180markets.com.au, sign up, and get on board for our very next capital raise. Thanks for watching.